Guys, happy Wednesday. Little announcement, we are going to take a quiz tomorrow. Unit 4 quiz will be tomorrow. Unit 4 is kind of a long unit, so we're going to kind of break it up into half the material and take a quiz on it, and then we'll take a final test in a couple more weeks. But you will have a quiz tomorrow. So today we're going to practice writing equations of parallel and perpendicular lines. And we're going to be using the point slope formula that we learned and talked about yesterday. So if you haven't done yesterday's lesson, you need to go do that first, because today it's not going to make any sense if you haven't already done yesterday's work and turned that in. Okay, so you're going to be practicing this in on the modules page. Go to the modules page for today and then scroll all the way to the bottom of the page on your Wednesday. You're going to be using Quizlet to practice this. So you click, and I've embedded it on the page here, which is great. So all you have to do is click Start Game, and then it's going to give you a timer, and you can keep playing and try to beat your time. But these are your problems, and then these are the answers. So what you would do was click, and you're going to match. And if it's correct, it'll disappear, and if not, it'll turn red like that. So it's only giving you 6 problems. There's more in this set, so you can keep playing. But once you complete the set and complete all the matches, it'll give you a badge or an award. And I want you to take a screenshot here of this, come up here and click Submit Assignment, and then submit that screenshot so that I have proof that you have finished it. And then I can give you credit for this assignment. So I'm going to work a few of these problems. Example problems are not exactly like the ones there, but they're not the same problems, but they are like those problems. So this question says, write an equation in slope-intercept form. So remember, let me find, where's my pen? There we go. Okay, so remember, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. And then we also learned point slope form. So this is slope-intercept because you have a slope and an intercept. Yesterday we talked about point slope form, which is y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. And this one's called point slope form because you have to have a slope and the coordinates of a point. So it says, write an equation in slope-intercept form of a line that's parallel, so that's important, to this line and passing through this point. So I can already see they've given me a point. So anytime you've been given a point, that's a pretty good indication that you're going to use point slope form. Now this one question is actually asking you to put your final answer into y equals mx plus b form. Which the Quizlet questions, most of those are still in point slope form. They're not simplified. Some of them are simplified, but most of them are not. But I'm going to show you how to go ahead and take it even further because it's good to know. Okay, so we need to know our point to use point slope form. And then let me grab another color here. So you got to have a point. That's the coordinates here. So that would be this piece, our point. We're going to use to fill in those pieces. And then we also need to have our slope. Well, we've got to find the slope from what they're telling us here. They told us that we need one that's parallel to this equation here, y equals 6x. Well, if it's going to be parallel to this one, so remember, parallel lines have the same slope. That's what that means. So parallel lines have the same slope. So I can look up here, because this equation they gave me is solve for y. Y is all by itself, then my slope must be the number in front of x. So my slope is 6 for this one. And because my slope is 6, I need to keep it 6 because I want a line that's parallel. And parallel lines have exactly the same slope. So let's plug all this in. Let me grab another color here. So I have y subtract. That's part of the formula. Now I need to plug in the first coordinate, the y coordinate actually, of my point. Well, that's this piece here. That's my y value, -8. So remember, the y minus is part of the formula, so I'm going to actually be subtracting a -8. So we're going to leave that as minus minus for right now. Okay, so then my equal sign is part of the formula. Well, now I need to plug in my slope, which we already said is going to have to be 6. So then I plug in the 6. So now let me go back to writing my formula again. X minus, that's part of the formula. But now I need to plug in, oops, wrong color. I need to plug in the X coordinate of my point, which happens to be 14, positive 14. Close your parentheses. Now, we could simplify this a little bit because a minus actually becomes a positive. So we could write this as y plus 8 equals 6 times x minus 14. If we left it here, that would be point slope formula. Now, if you want to take it even further, you could simplify this to get it to look like this one. We can do that by just first distributing over here. So we would say 6 times x, that's 6x, and then 6 times negative 14. What is 6 times negative 14? Let's see, I think that's 84. And because that's negative, that's going to be negative 84. I think so. I could be wrong there. 60 and 6 times 4 is 24. Yeah, I think that's right. So on this side, I have y plus 8. Well, now all we have to do to get this into slope-intercept form is subtract the 8 and move it over here. And it actually will partner up with this term on the end. So that's gone, and I just have y equals 6x. Well, negative 84 minus 8, I believe, is negative 92. So that would be your answer in y equals mx plus b form, or we could have used this one and stopped right here. And in your Quizlet, most of them stop and leave it just in point slope form. But remember, you could take it further and simplify it. So I wanted to show you that you can't always take it further and simplify it back to slope-intercept form. So I know I wrote all over this slide and it can be confusing, but I'm just trying to point everything out to you. So let's take a look at another example together as well. So for this one, they want me to write an equation in slope-intercept form. Again, this problem is telling me to go ahead and take it further and make my final answer in y equals mx plus b form. But we are going to use the formula y subtract y1 is equal to, I'm going to use this one, m times x subtract this equal sign is part of the formula, x1. So there's my pieces I would plug in for y1, x1, and m. Okay, and they're telling me to use this, this equation here. So I need one that's perpendicular to this equation, and I need it passing through this point. Okay, well now I know my point. I see it right here. So I could go ahead and start writing out and plugging in. The first piece I'm going to plug in for is this y1. Well, that's your y value of your ordered pair, and it happens to be 0. So I put my equal sign. Well, we've got to figure out the slope we're going to plug in, but I'm going to leave space for that slope right there. Come on. I'm going to leave space for my slope, and I'm going to go ahead and do the rest. Then I would put x minus, and now I would plug in for the x coordinate, which I can see that's 5. Okay, nice. So now if I could just figure out what my slope is that I need to use right here, I could plug in for it right here in front. So let's do that. Let's figure out what our slope is. Whoops, nope, cancel. Don't clear the frame, don't do it. So I need one that's perpendicular to this line. Well, because this one's solved for y is all by itself on one side, my slope for this line is 1/2. But now notice they want me to write one that's perpendicular. So before we were writing one that was parallel, so we just use the same slope. But perpendicular lines don't have the same slope. Remember, they have opposite signs. So because, whoops, I spelled that wrong. Let me get perpendicular. So I'm actually looking for a perpendicular slope to the one that I have. So because this one is positive, I know my slope's going to have to be negative, my new perpendicular slope. Because remember, perpendicular slopes have opposite signs and then they're reciprocals. So reciprocal means you take the fraction and you flip it upside down. So my perpendicular slope should actually be 2 over 1 instead of 1 over 2. So these have opposite signs. One's positive, one's negative, and I flip the fraction. Now I can simplify this because negative 2 over 1 is really just negative 2. So that's the slope I'm going to plug in. So if we wanted to make our final answer in point slope form, this would be it. We could simplify it one little tiny bit, because y minus 0, if you have y, take away nothing from it, you're just left with y. So this would be our final answer if we were going to leave it in point slope form. But now let's say, because this problem asks us to put it in slope intercept form, so they want us to take it back to this as our final answer. Well, let's go ahead and do that. Well, all we have to do for this one is distribute. Y equals, well, negative 2 times x is negative 2x, and negative 2 times negative 5, well, negative times a negative is positive, 2 times 5 is 10. So there are your two possible answers right there. So some of these are really, really simple to simplify. And it really is not hard to go from point slope to slope intercept, just usually a little bit of distributing and then move a number over. So there's a couple of examples. This is what you're going to be doing in the Quizlet. So work through the Quizlet, see if you can figure those out, and let me know if you have any questions or any trouble.